coming back live at you here from the floor of HoaCon 2018 at the Gaylord National, and I'm excited. This is an unexpected interview. I got Mick McKeown. He's the executive director of, what is that, HCAC campaign? What does that stand for, Rick?
The Homeland Security Advisory Council.
Oh, I like that. I should have known that.
Yeah, I'm a pretty important guy.
You are really
so
important. And I have to pretend I'm important now, otherwise you're probably going to take a beeline out of here.
Well, I have like the longest title in the federal government. I'm the executive director of the Homeland Security Advisory Council and campaign office.
Oh, wow. Well, thanks. That's all the time we have today. You're right. That's great. Well, I'm a big supporter of Homeland Security, even though every time I go into an airport, I feel guilty. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's a question between me and my therapist to handle, not to have you deal with today. But we're going to actually talk about, I think, something a little bit serious today. As you know, I've been trying to help out what I can, and by you, I mean the audience, not you in particular, Rick. I want to help the industry be more aware of what's happening with human trafficking so they could do their part to stop it. It's one of the most shameful things, I think, that we see out there that humankind does to other people out there. And it's really, I think, burst into our consciousness just in the last year or two. What's going on now that all of a sudden people are paying attention to this issue? Then we can get into more of the nitty-gritty, how people could be aware of what's going on, possibly under their noses.
Yeah, so my job is with the Blue Campaign, which is the unified voice for the Department of Homeland Security in fighting human trafficking. And the last year, we've really seen an uptick in awareness.
Right.
And I think that one of the most important aspects of this is that people are starting to kind of see what's going on out there. And one of the things that I always like to talk about is that when you're in a situation where, something doesn't feel right, and, that's the time that gut check kind of happens. And I think that people are kind of saying, like, I don't know if this is a 911 call, but if you see something, say something type of thing.
Now, I'm used to if you see something, say something, because I've been an adult in the whole post 9/11 era, and I come from New York City, right? So we're very cognizant of what's going on. But that's fine if I'm at the airport and I see some bags left alone because someone was being a dummy. But how do I recognize if something is going wrong if I'm in a hotel? How do I know that my gut is actually telling me that you should do something and say something and not just be unsure of yourself?
And that's the thing, right? And I think that one of the deals is that when you're in a situation and like you see something where, think of like, was it Sesame Street? Which one of these things doesn't belong? Right. So you're in a high end hotel and everyone's dressed nice and there's this one person who looks almost malnourished. Like, why are they there?
Right.
If they look like they're if they're under the influence or something like that, it's something that as a person, that gut feeling, or if you're a parent, that's something that just doesn't feel right. And I think that's kind of what does the tick. And one of the reasons that we're working with the hotel industry as a whole is that those the concierge, the front desk employees, the housekeeping, they're seeing other signs behind the scenes that are helping kind of like say clarify what you as the customer or you as the the CEO would initially tick off.
Right. Okay, so since this is a show for the hotel industry, let's talk about how hoteliers can recognize what's happening, what they could do about what's happening, and how they could make sure that others are aware of what's going on within their community. So what's the responsibility of that concierge, of that general manager, of that housekeeper? How could they be aware that something's going on? What are some of those signs that people could see other than what you just mentioned about being malnourished?
Yeah, right. So one of the things we do talk about is, it's that initial gut check. What's something that doesn't feel right, doesn't go wrong. The second one, I would say, and this is one that is kind of interesting, is that when you're especially at that front desk and you're registering in, traffickers will hold on to people's identification. So they'll hold on to that ID. And when someone's checking in, it's very easy for them to give you a credit card, their ID, here's my room number. And if there's a reason why someone doesn't have that type of information or have that accessibility, it's a red flag. There's other things that are specific to the hotel industry, and I think that's why we have a great hotel toolkit. So if you want to go to our website, which is dhs.gov/Blue Campaign, you can download the toolkit for free or follow us on Twitter to kind of get some of those more access to that. But that's the basics for me is that everything on that toolkit that we provide, each page of that toolkit is for a specific part of the hotel industry. So we have a part for the concierge, part for the front desk, part for housekeeping, and that page can just go right into the break room or go right into the back of the house so that people can see it. 'Cause obviously you don't want to have advertisements for human trafficking, facing the customer, right?
No, that would make me as a guest feel uncomfortable because it's happening behind the scenes, and we almost kind of want it to stay that way psychologically, or else we're not going to feel that we're comfortable in that hotel. Or I could see, saying I'm not going to trust this particular hotel.
Exactly.
And I think that we're probably very prejudiced against thinking that these things only happen at, say, a budget motel or an economy hotel. But I understand from what I've done and from people I've spoken to, including Roni Hong, who was a former sex trafficking victim that was kidnapped from her home in India, sold into sexual slavery, and she shared with me that these things happen at 4 and 5 Diamond hotels too. So
Absolutely.
every hotel is at risk here of not knowing what's happening underneath their behind closed doors.
And the beautiful thing about working with the Blue Campaign in particular in this is that it's great access for the hotelier in whatever part of the country they're in to work with the HSI, the Homeland Security Investigations, build a relationship, take advantage of, for those of you who are here now, take advantage of your government relations team to kind of get a chance to build those relationships so that if you do have an issue or you do want to make sure that, you're on that radar so that you're not in the news, and you're able to kind of deal with that. And the other thing I think that was really interesting, you're talking about Roni, by the time we get the chance to talk to Roni, she's a survivor, right? No longer a victim, she's a survivor of this. And everything that we do within the Blue Campaign and everything that we do, particularly in our work, it has survivor input. So everything that we create, we make sure that the survivor's in part of it. And I think that's really one of the more important things, that when you get a chance to deal in this space, is that you want to have an authentic voice, and to have that survivor input allows for all of us to have a better sense of what is this crime and what it means to people and how it affects them for years to come after it's been perpetuated.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you get hoteliers to actually take responsibility and move forward with this? And I don't mean to speak negatively about my fellow hotelier community, but I think some people out there are just like, I don't want to be involved. I'm going to pretend I'm not seeing anything, and I won't say anything.
Yeah, well, that is a challenge. But I have to say that for us, the Blue Campaign was signed into law, and it was such an honor to have Bhavesh Patel and AAOHA to be here and be a part of it. They've been such a great partner throughout, and making sure that they're able to get this message out there to the members, that we invited them to the signing, because that's how important this partnership is to us.
Right, and Bhavesh Patel is the outgoing chairman. We're at the event recording live. He's still chairman, but later this week he will be retiring from the chairman position. His time will be up. Yes. So that's interesting. I had no idea that this was a law. So it's not even an issue of whether or not you think you should do the right thing.
It's do the right thing.
You must do the right thing, and if you don't say something, then maybe you're going to be liable for something as well as a hotelier.
I mean, that's one of the things that, I got a chance to, get to talk all over the country about this. And I know in Florida there's a bill out there that they were trying to, say that, if you don't have that Good Samaritan aspect to it, that you could be held liable. There is definitely different types of legislation coming down the pike that we all have to be aware of, and what that means for the industry as a whole.
Right. I don't want to be negative and think that there are a lot of people that don't want to do the right thing. I know that there are individual circumstances of it. I know that a lot of people do want to do the right thing. They just don't have the tools or the knowledge in order to be successful with putting a stop on this. And again, I go back to where we first started, that trust your gut bit. I would think for me in that situation, I would just assume that it's not happening in my property. So I think you need to clear your mind to think that, yes, it can happen everywhere, like I said, even at 4 and 5 Diamond hotels.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, too, is that it's happening all across the country. It's happening in rural America, it's happening in the suburbs, it's happening in the cities. And, each case that we hit, it's always a different scenario. And I think that, one of the things that we have seen as like a success story in the human trafficking space is a lot in the airline industry. Like, there's somebody passes a note in an airplane to the flight attendant, and that happens. I think that, as the hotel industry gets to take a larger, section of this, I think we're going to see more success stories coming out of the hotel industry of where that front desk employee receives a note from someone who needs help.
Do you have a story that you could share with us about somebody that was put into a situation, was able to thwart this from happening?
Actually, I have the gut check scenario, and it's not necessarily the way I had hoped, but I'm a Irish Catholic kid from Northeast Philadelphia. Right. I was born in a little row home with a postage stamp of a backyard, and our entire life revolved around Sunday dinner. I had 17 first cousins, and we would all get together. Big Irish Catholic family. So. I remember then going back to, I lived with my grandmother, going to my grandmom's house for dinner, and then as an adult having my own daughter going to my mom's house for grandmom's, right? And every day or every Sunday I would pass the street, and there's always just this weird feeling in your stomach that something wasn't right.
Right.
And, I come to find out that an Amish family decided to, instead of going to the local bank to get a loan to save the family farm, they put up not one, not two, not three, but four of their daughters for a $40,000 loan to a man.
Oh, my goodness.
And, and for years, everyone in the neighborhood knew something was up, but they didn't know what it was. And that's when, that happened in the last, 18 months, 2 years, and then that's when the human trafficking, to me, really woke my eyes up. And I think that it's one of those things where you get an opportunity to kind of say something and kind of get that notice of, hey, this is going on. And those types of cases have emerged. And then we've also now seen some of the success cases where you have a case where these girls were given a ticket by a man. They got the local police officer said, this is only a one-way ticket. How are you coming home? And they had, the whole entire time, they were 17 years old. They didn't know that they had a two-way ticket. And the guy didn't answer the phone, and they were able to save those two girls from probably a very bad situation. So, that's the type of thing where, there are some good cases, and there are some cases where, we have some sad situations.
I think the one thing that probably stops people from following through when their gut is telling them is that, what if I'm wrong, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what if you're wrong, and what if you say something and you're wrong?
There's no harm in saying something, and especially when the intent is there,
right?
And I think that there was a case where someone thought that we had a trafficking instance once again on a plane. The woman, was escorted off, and then she was just coming back from spring break, and I think at first she was mad, but the other thing that came out of it was that, hey, this situation, they're trying to save somebody,
right?
And I think that if you are wrong and you're trying to save somebody, the intent is there, and I think people can forgive a lot.
So it's definitely forgivable. Law enforcement is going to be still good for you for doing the right thing. So it's always better to err on the side of caution and make that phone call to the authorities, even if you are just have a whiff of suspicion that something is going on.
Yeah, and the other thing is with that too, with the law enforcement thing, don't be a hero.
Right.
Let law enforcement, they're trained on how to handle this. Don't go. We don't need anyone being MacGyver or Chuck Norris on this deal. Focus in on just make the call, and you don't need to do anything else other than that.
What if you are Chuck Norris?
We could all use a little Walker in our lives, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Any final thoughts before we let you tell people how to contact you and connect you and get involved?
Yeah, I just want to thank the industry as a whole. I know that there's some members that aren't the craziest about getting involved in the trafficking world, but we do appreciate the efforts that the industry as a whole has made, and I'm looking forward to continuing the partnership.
Right, we're all here. We're all part of this human experience, and at the end of the day, we really all have to look out for each other, because if we're not going to do it, then really you're just letting those evil people win, and we can't let them win, be it sex trafficking or terrorism or just jerks that beat up their wives, whatever it is.
Right. So that's the thing. It takes a lot of people to make a world, and we're all in this together.
Yeah, excellent. So, all right. So, how can we contact you folks for, say, the resources that you mentioned at the Department of Homeland Security, or maybe you offer opportunities for education on this? I don't know. Maybe you come into hotels. Maybe you come to different towns. How does all that work?
Sure. So we're on the road a lot, and love to come to a town near you. We do some pretty big speaking engagements, so we definitely can work out with the brands directly, or with if there's especially a regional meeting or a statewide meeting, we would love to attend. You can visit us at www.dhs.gov/Blue Campaign. Follow us on Twitter at DHS Blue Campaign, and you can also find us on Facebook. I think we have a newsletter and these different resources and toolkits for people to download.
Excellent. And if you have any videos or anything like that, I'd be happy to share them on my site as well. And we got a little cue from the side. You want to say something?
Oh, yeah.
It's all free.
Yeah, the publicist speaks.
Yeah.
Yes, and everything's free. So, yeah, everything is free. And, we have some videos, and we do Facebook Lives event. We did a great Twitter chat with the American Hotel Lodging Association and with this group, and I think it's really important that, everyone kind of take a peek at that as well.
Yes, it is important to say that here at AAHOA 2018 at the Gaylord National, they did a comprehensive program on it yesterday to help train you. So if, it's great resource. They're free resources. We want to help do what's right for the universe. Let's all leave this place a better kind of world. Let's save some lives. Let's help some people. And we got Mick McKeown here to help do it. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, if you want to get involved, be sure to get involved. Listen to those resources, or just drop me a line at Traveling Glenn on Twitter and Instagram, or glenn@rouse.media is my email, and I will forward you all of those links, and I'll even post them in the show notes as well. Thanks again for being here.